Tell me if this describes you. You follow a carnivore. You tried carnivore. Some of you have succeeded. But you still watch carnivore influencers on YouTube and other platforms, searching for something. Even though it may be working, this no plants, all animal product diet, you still think there's something missing. You still think you can make it better. You still think somebody out there, some other influencer, has come up with the new magic fix to give you what you feel like you're missing. Are you missing anything? Consider this. I watch hours upon hours of people giving advice to carnivores. 99% of all of those people are talking about everything except the real problem, the logical problem. I've talked about it constantly for over 3 years now, and still, most people just don't get it. Addiction. Addiction. You're tired of hearing about it. Carbohydrate addiction. It controls you, but you don't want to admit that you're weak. So you reject the idea, I think. In fact, I know it's an imperative that you understand this insidious process, why it works on us, why we constantly fall for it, and how this process, something at one point in time absolutely necessary for our ancestors' survival, has been hijacked so completely and thoroughly by industry and science that we have all been purposefully, systematically, and profitably addicted to carbohydrates and herded like sheep. That's what I said. Purposefully addicted so that we could be sold. Addiction is a natural process. Many people will define it. Some people say, you're a sex addict. Of course you are. Sex is a necessary function if a species is to survive. We have biological urges that compel us mindlessly to pursue sex. Is sex addiction a disease? How could it be? Without sex, there'd be no humans. We are addicted to substances, drugs, and alcohol, things that have been advertised to us, that give us pleasurable responses, that mimic those of fulfilling ancient, necessary actions, like the pursuit of these particular substances, like sugar. The addiction model of business is a slam bang winner, because once you addict an animal to any substance, you have a customer for life. Even if that customer wants to quit your product, wants to change his mind, he finds it almost impossible. And that brought up a whole new crop of industry called addiction management. Now we have doctors and psychologists and psychiatrists making their living trying to help these people that have been systematically addicted in the last, say, 70 or 100 years to all of these substances in the name of profit, fueled by corruption and misinformation. We are an addicted nation now, far worse than we were back in the 50s. Well, what does that mean? People are getting fatter, they're getting sicker, more out of control. The science that has really let us understand this is a mere decades at most old. So in the last 3 million years of human evolution, in the last, say, 2,000 to 5,000 years of humans writing and figuring out all the things that are wrong, most of that was just opinion and story. Many smart people, leading all the way up to the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, when we had the likes of Ansel Keys, who decided that cholesterol caused heart disease, and the rest is history. Blamed it on the fat and the meat. That was wrong, but we didn't know it was wrong because the science that we've only had for the past 20 years, if done properly and not hijacked or hidden, worse, hidden from human knowledge, that science is showing today that all of the previous ideas about nutrition and health have been pure wrong and hijacked by those who would profit off of and take advantage of the addictability of any animal, especially humans. And today we have cartels of every size, shape, and form selling harmful substances, both legal and illegal, and we have become a nation of addicts. We don't want to admit that to ourselves. But now that we're a nation of addicts, we can't stop eating, mindlessly eating that crap that's making us sick. To the rescue come the same companies that hired the scientists that have addicted us to these things, and now they want to come up with a cure for these addictions. And the new best-selling drug in the world is now the GLP-1 family. Do we really think this is the answer to the problem? You watch all these carnivore, keto, all these videos. The answer, as I always said, is very, very simple. If you're not an addict, you may not appreciate this. If you are an addict and have had some success on carnivore, you will realize that once you manage to live without those addictive substances for a few weeks to a month, those cravings that you cannot control, those midnight trips to the supermarket to get the ice cream and the fruit that you find a way to rationalize, those cravings do go away until you give yourself another taste. At which time you bang, back to square one and you're re-addicted. It's so simple to be a carnivore. You don't need to watch 10 hours of carnivore videos a day. You don't need to keep searching for the magic pill. The magic pill is animal products. Very simple. Oh, there's a few fine points like, do I fast? Do I intermittent fast? What ratio of fat to protein do I eat? Do I need to take supplements, if any? That's it. That is it. Why is it so complicated? why do, I would say, 99% of the people who, with great intentions, start this way of life, fail miserably, fall off the wagon, and end up reversing any gains they'd made, no matter how large or small, because they're addicts. I think, my opinion, all advice coming out of every carnivore influencer's mouth ought to focus primarily on addiction, because that's why we fail. The lack of willpower, some mysterious fantasy that we seem to think we're strong enough to exhibit. Just recently, I watched a video with two very famous doctors, and you all know who I'm talking about. And one of the doctors said to the other that you can eat bread as long as you make it the healthiest bread you can eat, and talked about sourdough bread. Immediately, every addict who's been successful on carnivore, they perked up. Say, what? I can eat bread? If you're an addict, you can't eat any bread, because even the healthiest bread is still made from plants. It has sugars. Maybe it's fermented, so some of the sugars have been eaten up by bacteria. Maybe it's clean. Maybe it's made with what they call ancient wheat, and there's no genetic modification. It's still wheat. You're still addicted to it. One bite, one sandwich, say goodbye to your new healthy lifestyle. Your addiction will ruin it for you. Now, you say to me, Mitch, and I say what? You say, Mitch, how can you be so sure? Well, I can be so sure because that's how I react to that stuff, and what's ruined me overall my entire life, and why I've fallen off 15 different diets and gained the weight all back on, even though I'm smart and consider myself in control. But that's just me. How do I know that's happened to you? If you're an addict, it has to happen to you. You have been addicted to these substances, and you cannot cure your addiction. You can only abstain from them if somehow you can figure out a way to manage these cravings. And that's the secret of carnivore. It allows you to manage the carbohydrate cravings. Stop listening to all these people who are telling you can make carnivore pizza this way, or carnivore cookies that way, or carnivore biscuits the other way. Your addiction will win every time. And if you think you're an addict, and maybe you're not, and you brag about the fact that you overcame your addiction, I got news for you, my friends. You are not an addict in the first place. And you're a very lucky person. You cannot be giving advice to addicts. Period. We can go into some of the minor addictions, like alcohol addiction. Same thing. Most people who manage to get a coin at an AA meeting and go through all of that and put their addiction at bay, their recidivism rate after 10 years is probably 99 out of 100 of them. The drug addiction rate, the people who are heroin addicts, cocaine addicts, when they go into drug treatment programs, they treat them with things like methadone, which by themselves just substitute one addiction for another. Alcoholics Anonymous just substitutes caffeine and nicotine caffeine in coffee and nicotine in cigarettes for the alcohol addiction. You don't cure anything, you simply substitute one addiction to take the place of others. Is that an improvement? You go in there to stop drinking and you come out addicted to cigarettes and coffee? We are not curing addictions. The trick in this world is not to get addicted in the first place, but that's impossible because our entire society is built on the addiction of infants the instant that they're born. 5 years an infant's supposed to be on mother's milk to get everything they need. Not anymore. Right away we start them on formula with seed oils and sugars in them. Once they start to get mildly addicted to this stuff, we start them with the treats. Good boy, little Johnny, here's a piece of candy or some ice cream for you. By the time that they're 2 years old, they are full-blown, lifelong addicts in the making. We've written their fate. But this is our culture. This is what we've got. The addictive food is always the major part of any social event, any celebration, any reward. It's tough to be a carnivore in this climate and not eat these foods. We are surrounded by them, reminded of them every day, can't even convince our loved ones and family that we don't want them in our house. And 99% of us just give up one day and say, I can't live without my treats and my comfort food, or my alcohol and my drugs. It's disappointing. And yet I keep harping on it. The most important thing to do if you're starting carnivore, recognize if you're an addict or not. That will chart the course for whether you succeed easily or you have to be very wary of the path you take to become a carnivore and fix your health. You never cure it, you only basically put it into remission. And it can rear its ugly head again if you have even one slip up, one cheat. Most people don't have the discipline for that. So most people will fail. You can't add in those things that you're addicted to and expect to succeed. It's a tough decision. Am I never going to eat another piece of bread in my lifetime? Well, the answer is yes. And after a while, you stop wanting the bread and it becomes easier. I harp on this and I harp on it. I know it's true. I know it's true. If you take the time to learn the physiology of it, the evolutionary reasons for it, and the ease at which science and industry has capitalized at our expense on our addictability, you'll be angry, you'll rebel, and I think sometimes that's maybe the best place to start. Nothing feels like anger. Get pissed at the food companies. Refuse to buy their products anymore because they're basically killing you and making money on the process. They're in cahoots with the medical and pharmaceutical industries, who continually come up with new and wonderful treatments for all these illnesses caused by their poisonous products. Is it too far out of hand now? Is there any fixing it? In a culture-wide, national, or worldwide, I don't think so. I think it's going to be something that has to be discovered generationally, little by little, long after we're gone. But we can fix and do something for ourselves and our family if they'll even listen to us, which more than likely they won't because of the pressures on them to conform, have the party, eat the birthday cake, drink the booze, get high. Peer pressure. But for the very few of us that follow a really simple plan, the payoff is healthy life itself. Something most people today don't get to brag about. as they're approaching 80, like I am. Even after the bad things that have happened to me. It wasn't my metabolism that killed me, caused my head injury, eventually my stroke. It had nothing to do with my overall health or metabolism. That's been pretty good most of the time, once I found carnivore. It was an accident that did it. You can't blame a health issue on an accident. By all rights, I should have given up giving carnivore advice because I had a stroke. Well, so listen to you, Mitch, you had a stroke. Well, I'm tired of explaining. So maybe when I get to be 100, people say, well, the guy's 100 years old. Hell, maybe he's got something there. And the older I get, the more credibility I seem to have. I keep stressing, keep it simple. It is simple. Quit looking for a quick fix. There are none. Quit looking for a way to add in those addictive foods that you think brings us joy and comfort to your life. They don't bring joy and comfort. They're a momentary fix with generating a permanent and devastating problem. The answer to fixing these problems is not to eat the medically approved healthy diet of about all plants and very little protein and no fat. That is a deadly bit of advice. Yet if you tell somebody that out there in this world, they think you are insane. Well, I'll tell you what, my friends, let's be insane. We're going to have to be a small, insane group of people that, for some unexplainable reason, are a hell of a lot healthier than their contemporaries. But that's too logical. Don't believe your lying eyes. Believe what I tell you. Line up for those statins and that GLP. Don't worry, your health insurance will pay for it. Eat all that stuff that you want. Eat all those treats. Love life and just up your insulin dose. That's what they're telling us. It is absurd and it's criminal. Addiction is the problem. If you weren't an addict, you are now or you will be one soon if you continue to live in our culture. The scientists are getting better at making these fake foods tastier, more satisfying, and more tempting. That's about the only use of science that they're benefiting from. And the science of phony studies to back up their claims and sell you more and more drugs and more addictive food. We are sheep. We are sheep. Break away from the herd. It's the only way to survive this, to be healthy in your old age. At least that's my opinion. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. If somebody's not talking about addiction, they're missing 90% of the point. Ask the questions. Well, what about my addiction? I'm a slave to these things. I can't stop. They'll tell you, you're not strong enough. Well, that's the pat answer. It's bullshit. What about addiction? How do I do that? Because I'm an addict. How do I just eat something from time to time when once I take a bite of it, I want to eat it all the time and I can't control myself? How do I fix that? Well, you got to get stronger. Bullshit. You got to eat less and work more. Bullshit. We all know that doesn't work. We've all tried it. This works. This works. It should not be even billed as a diet. It should be billed as an addiction management program because that's what it is. That's what it is. It starts out as an addiction management program and remains an addiction management program for the rest of your life. And as a byproduct, you for the first time in your life get proper human nutrition from eating animal products and not eating plants, and you get healthy. It's a win-win. You don't believe me? Change my mind. I haven't seen an argument against this, yes, that makes any sense, but a lot of arguments against it for people who are brainwashed by all the propaganda. But at the root of their protests, believe it or not, sits their own addiction and unwillingness to give up all of that addictive crap that they get so much pleasure out of. It's an unwinnable argument, my friend, because an addiction powerful enough to control you and your actions and sends you off to the store to buy ice cream, protesting all the way, is the same addiction that's powerful enough to get them to always have the pat answer, the talking point, and the propaganda to support the continuation of their addiction for themselves. Enough for today. Take the rest of the day off and eat meat.